Hello and welcome to Rise and Shine with Alissa. I am your hostess, the consultress, bringing you amazing conversations with interesting and sometimes very creative people. I have the pleasure and the privilege of mixing it up with a very big array of wonderful personalities, and I am so pleased to invite one of my favorites to the conversation today. It has been way too long. This episode is way overdue. Omid, Zareh, welcome to Rise and Shine.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me here, Alissa. Really appreciate it. I'm not sure I'm going to live up to the creative part of that, but that's okay. It's all right. We can, we can have a thing. So I'll just.
Yeah. So listen, it's 7:30 a.m., man. What we are here to do.
All right, it's just coffee. It's just coffee.
So there have been many people in my life who have given me advice, have been along my journey of growth, and you're one of the people who just like stuck out to me. You have a heart of gold, a personality to boot.
Oh my God.
And you're in the legal profession, so this is all very rare to
Yeah,
me.
no, and I was just going to say, you're saying to people I have a heart of gold is really going to impact our bottom line at the law firm. So we got to tone down the heart of gold stuff.
He's a vicious lawyer.
See, much better.
I am so blessed to have your wisdom in my life and in my business.
You're so sweet. You're so sweet. You're so sweet.
It's very true. So I have seen iterations of your business as your business has grown and changed, and as you have, over the last decade for mine. So let's give the people a little bit of what they came for, aside from the jokes and the bourbon, perhaps, and the coffee. Everybody awake now? Yeah, we're here. What brought you to your profession? What made you
to law? Wow. Right. So right. That's a question I haven't answered since I guess law school. Why law? So I'll start with the easy one, which is I was exposed to law when I was a teenager, and realized early on that many of the lawyers actually, it was hard to take advantage of them, and they sort of knew the rules when nobody else knew the rules. So that was part of it. I didn't want to be taken advantage of. Part of it was also I fell in with a couple of incredible mentors at the Bar Association when I was young. I did mock trials with actually my partner. One of my partners and I have known each other since we were teenagers in high school. It's the name of the firm is Weinberg, Zareh, Malkin Price. So Weinberg and Zareh did mock trials when we were in high school together. And so I really took a liking to the chess game of if we argue this, they'll do that. And so we have to, plan some moves ahead. And there's some theatrics involved when you're a litigator. And so, that was also very appealing. And what else can I tell you? So I like the idea of helping people come up with their point of view. I like the idea of helping, serving others when they're in trouble, right? Most of our clients are incredibly sophisticated folks who don't know what they're doing about a particular issue. And on a good day, I help people.
I hate to say, but what happens on a bad day?
On a bad day, what happens on a bad day? On a bad day, you try to help people and you realize they haven't told you everything or the situation's much worse. On a good day, an oncologist stops somebody from having cancer. On a bad day, they've got to break some bad news.
Yeah. I mean,
and by the way, and that's a fun time. Let's go. Good job. Way to bring down the spirit, everybody.
Well, so part of it is telling the truth. Like,
absolutely.
Sometimes it's really painful for people to get to what is true, because so often we're in the business mentally with ourselves of telling ourselves what we want to be true, what we want to hear to validate the self-image that we have, or to prove the idea that we have is valid, right? And the role that I've seen you take for me is kicking the tires a bit. Well, if this were true, let's talk about this over here. And if that actually is true, it would look like this, does it? And so bringing that levity to the situation around, like, I can't help you unless I know what you know. And it behooves you in the situation to be as honest with yourself as you possibly can. So not only is this a business of helping people through situations that they are beyond their scope or limitations of their own understanding, but it's also about helping people be honest with themselves, no?
Yeah. So look, a lot of what I do is that speaking truth to power thing. Uh, uh, Especially when so much of our business is our reputation and relationships, right? No one's going to come to you if you don't know what you're doing, and no one's going to come to you if everybody else says you don't know what you're doing. So it's really reputation, it's reputation, it's relationships, and it's being able to help people. Um, we had a case, I mean, this was years ago, where the relationship was, the reason I was involved was I was outside counsel to somebody who brought us in at the company. And we had a long discussion. They're accusing us of this, they're accusing us of that, some money's missing. Well, so, it took a good week of looking at things until I called the person who brought us in and did listen, all the signatures coming back to you. Is there anything you and I want to discuss without the board members here? And he's like, yeah, it was me. I did it. And you've got this weird situation where he's the guy who brought me in. And and for me, the legal side of things is very easy, right? That's an easy call. It's the relationship side of things. So in those situations, you've got to have some courage, right? The ethical rules for us are very easy. You've got a board member who's doing something wrong, or you've got an officer who's doing something wrong. You've got to tell them, you've got to inform everybody, and if they don't inform everybody, then I have other things that I can do. But for me, that's probably as bad as it gets, when you've got somebody who's done something wrong and we need to disclose it, or somebody who has been wishing for years that the situation was different. And I've got my nephew, he's always been a mess up, but I keep him in the business because I want to make sure that my sister's kid's got a job, or so, whatever it is. And you've got to go back and be like, listen, your nephew just royally screwed up your business. He's got to go. But he's been around forever. I know. He's got to go. And we don't have to be harsh about it, although I'm often harsher than they want to be. But at some point, you need somebody to. And I can't believe I keep coming back to this analogy. You got to cut the cancer before it grows, right? And so that's some of what we do.
Yeah, and the thing about identifying, it's very, to me, it feels like tough love. It feels like, finding what is the problem is more important than trying to fix something that is very vague or fuzzy. Oftentimes, hey, we all get into business, and we're going to just leave this in the business realm because I'm sure this translates into many areas and many relationships, right? We're going to keep this in the ethical business realm, but sometimes people spend their time, not wanting to see it or not wanting to address it because you said, like, the relationships here are the thing that are at stake. It's like revenue and money can be made and lost and built over again and taken down, but the relationship piece is where it takes some finesse to be able to have people understand where they need to be, what they need to be doing, or having those tough conversations. Because hey, uh, people, when they get into business, are doing something that they feel convicted about, they feel passionate, and they're on the journey of making that value come to fruition, whatever it is.
Well, and the other thing is, so it's funny. So we had we get, and I'm sure you do too, right? We get solicited all the time. Use our service for this. Use our service for that. We had a service provider who wanted us to use a service in one of our litigations, and ultimately the client decided to go a different way, and so we didn't need his services. And he's a younger guy, and he's a little hot-headed. And Alissa, for the next 20 minutes, I was getting really like I thought this guy was a friend of mine. I was getting text messages that were just completely inappropriate for a business setting. And 2 or 3 weeks later, the guy came back and he starts soliciting me again for the same kind of services for the next time. And I just couldn't believe, like, how do you walk back from that? How do you, you know, at some point you just, it's your reputation. There's nothing more important. And people, if you tell somebody the truth today, tomorrow they'll turn around and say, I wonder who was the one person who told me the truth about this thing. When everybody else was a yes woman or a yes man, who was the person who was just like, you know what? I think you're wrong. Here's why you're wrong. I hope I'm wrong about you being wrong, but I'm not. You're wrong.
That's what everybody needs. If you need a no man, ladies and gentlemen.
If you need somebody to tell you that the emperor has really ridiculously, let himself go outside without clothes on, I'm the one. I'm the one.
Yeah, and I think what you said is really like poignant and relevant, that transcends the business realm, is that, your reputation is not only who you are in business, your reputation is how you behave. How do you respond to events? I have, personal experience with relationships earlier in my life that were very push and pull. They were very volatile, and I learned that I couldn't trust. In the good times, they were great. And in the bad times, they were freaking awful. And after a few times around that merry-go-round, I realized something, that it's like, no matter how much of the good I wanted to see in that person, I always kept tucked back in my memory that this was what happened when the chips are down. This is what happens when things don't go their way, or things are, not according to their plan, or what have you. And, that happens everywhere, from relationships that are in your intimate space, relationships that are in your workplace, relationships that are, your family. I mean, family can be the worst one sometimes, because we take the
Whoa,
most.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Sometimes?
Sometimes.
No, no, look. I mean, we've known each other for a while. I love my children, my family, the whole thing. But there's definitely times when, even in a familial setting, we've got to admit that mom can't drive. We got to take her keys away. In a relationship, right? I know your boyfriend or girlfriend or significant other has been in your life forever, but they're abusive, and you may not see how they're taking advantage of you, but I do. In an investment setting, I love this apartment building. It's a great, well, we've looked at the numbers. No matter how much you love it, the return on investment is a trickle. And the amount of time you're putting into this is not worth it. You're better off just taking that money and putting it into the stock market for now. Each of us has things to which we're blind. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I really, I've been in relationships where people love me. I don't know why, right? Like, right? Like, each of us has things that we're blind to.
Yeah.
And it behooves us to have folks who are truthful with us, who can see our biases and take them away. And especially, we do a tremendous amount of bankruptcy work, right? Every one of those initial conversations is heartbreaking, because every one of those conversations is, and we just had it this week. I've owned the business for 40 years, and I can't compete with undocumented workers, or I can't compete with, the COVID protocols, or I can't, how do I keep a restaurant running? And now I've got to shut things down, and it really, it's a good friend that sits you down and says, listen, I love you, but, and we all need one of those, or several of those in my case, because I make a lot of mistakes, where, dude, what are you doing? You can't do that. You're not right for hair modeling.
Jesus. Oh, and this is the kind of stuff, ladies and gentlemen, that keeps us in line with each other, and that's just it. So because you love I'll say the authenticity of being real, true, and honest, like that's how I've seen you show up as a friend, as a business advisor, as someone out in the community doing good work. I know you are, you sit on, I think last we spoke on an ethics committee of sorts. Like, the reason why we get along is that true blue nature of who you are. So I want to ask some like fun questions now. Like,
Anything at all, anything at all.
where do you find the most joy in your work?
So that's interesting. So I will tell you that over the course of, and I've been doing this for more decades than I care to admit. When I first came out of law school, I was one of the younger people coming out of my class. I graduated from college a year early. And the joy for me was, I'm a grown up. Like I'm in the room, I'm having a conversation. We're selling a hotel, we're buying this, we're selling that. And I got a thrill back then of the novelty of it all. Then there was a phase in my career where it was, for lack of a better word, competition. But like, I'm going to be the smartest person in the room. I'm going to be the most well-read person. I'm going to be the best prepared person at the oral argument. When we're negotiating a deal, I will know the rules of that particular endeavor more so that I know that they can't put one up over me. Then that was that phase. Now I'm at a different place. Now I'm at a place where professionally it's about running a law firm. I think, a few years ago, I got a kidney stone, which my life was never in danger, but it felt like I was going to die. It was just a horrible feeling. And my first thought was my kids. And my second thought was the families that are depending on me to go to work, which is, way too much pressure on a kidney stone. And I think now it's kind of, how do I help the people that are our clients? How do I help the folks that are depending on us to make sure that business is coming in and things are functioning well? And I really, the thing that has given me the most satisfaction the last few years is helping family businesses, right? It's not just like we had a great case where we got a tremendous victory in a courtroom. But the thing that really got to me that made me wonderfully happy about that was our clients were elderly folks who were very honest, and were just going up against somebody who had no problems lying about it. And so our client, like she had kept 40 years worth of records. And, every time she said like, oh, it was snowing on Saturday, here is a weather report from Saturday. So I got so much enjoyment out of helping her and helping her family. Last year we helped a small funeral home service to buy out one of their partners and move on and restructure themselves and move to the next phase. And this family, I love these folks. I really, and we have nothing in common, right? Like Italian Americans, I guess we all love pasta, but that's about it. Like, but they adopted me. They invited me over for Thanksgiving, because again, I was helping a family take their baby, which is, I think of all businesses as a little baby that needs taking care of, and working through all of the hideous, nightmarish problems they have so that, they can move on to their next thing and we can help them out. So that's these days it's about helping families and businesses move forward.
Yeah, I love that. And you
Sorry,
also
that was a long answer to a short question. I'm sorry.
yeah, you will be. No. So the talking about transitions, helping people through tough conversations when it comes to transition, or what do you call it? Like exit strategies and planning for the next evolution of the business.
Succession. Yeah, succession. Yeah.
Succession, that's the word I was looking for. See, this is why you get paid the big bucks. So, and I know now, right now is the time where there's a lot of business owners exiting.
Yeah.
And what have you seen in that space? Have you seen a lot of family businesses transitioning? Are they mostly big businesses? Are they like mom and pop shops?
Yeah, so I don't think it's about the size. I think it's a little bit more about where specific people are. So in my mind, there's the first generation of the business, the founders. The second generation is kind of Oftentimes it's the kids, but it can be a brother, or it could be, a partner or a friend. And then there's the third generation, the grandkids, or so the trickiest part is that first generation to second generation transfer. Most entrepreneurs, most self-made women and men, if you've pulled yourself up by your bootstraps, so to speak, you're a sales, you can do it yourself. And we come to split the business, or we come to an impasse. Just get rid of it for me. Just settle it somewhere in the middle. Because most of those guys and gals know they can start over again. I did it once. I can do it again. I'm not going to argue over, pennies when I've got another thing I can go and start up without this albatross around my neck. That second generation oftentimes is scared of, oh my God, I didn't start this. Dad started this business, or, my Uncle Steve started the business. And so I'm going to fight over everything. I'm going to fight over every IKEA lamp, even though, it's just an IKEA lamp. You can get another one, because they're scared. So if you can teach that second generation about the business enough, and help them understand that they, if you know what you're doing, you can rely on yourself. That's the trickiest thing, because once you get to that, then the third generation no longer thinks of it as an annuity. They understand it's a baby you've got to take care of. That's the trickiest part, is the succession planning, where the next generation of the business, so to speak, has to learn to take care of the baby. It's not just something that's always going to be around. It's something you got to pay attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. I in my own family business, I was kind of front seat to a lot of this transition talk. My husband and I, when we were, first married, wanted to, cast our net into the family business. And, I had been working in it for forever. It's one of the first efficiency projects I ever pulled off really, really well. It took, a little bit every single year, but the point of it was, we were participating in someone else's dream that came true, that continued to need their attention. So, there was a big gap between where we were as we want to participate and innovate, and where, my dad and his generation was, where, no, this is how it's done. This is what we've learned. This is what works. And there was a lot of like resistance, because the innovation couldn't happen unless you had buy-in. And so I found, at least in our family, one of the best things we ever did was stop trying to be part of the family business and do what you just said before, and go create something on our own.
Alissa, I'll also tell you, look, people come to us all the time and they say, I'm going to set up a business 50-50. And I refuse. And they say, why? And I say, Yoko Ono. Not to say that she was responsible, but like it's been very reported that she's the reason why they broke up. And the point is not the truthfulness of that issue. It's the lesson to be learned from that tale, which is, for people to be successful, for partners to be successful, for a rowing team to be successful, you got to be going to the same place. You have to have the same vision to get to the same place. Or you need a rule that says, in the case of a tie, Joe breaks the tie, right? Or in this case, Paul McCartney, Sir Paul McCartney. So if we have a 50-50 thing, it's just never going to work, because you don't have the same vision. And I think for most of us, let's say you're in a food industry business that your family runs, hypothetically speaking, for example.
Like a bagel business, maybe.
Like a bagel business. Right. So you're in a bagel business, and you said it, not me. Hey, what works for you 30 years ago may not work now, because half the kids are allergic to sesame seeds, gluten, and we can order bagels online to be delivered to our home. So why do I need to come to you after, after a holiday to buy my bagels there. So that whole transitioning from one generation to the next, being able to pivot and adapt with changing times and a changing atmosphere, all of that gets lost if you just want to go in, punch a clock, collect your revenue, and go home. And then there's COVID, and then there's Maud, right? And then there's COVID. And the one thing it taught any business where you've got to be in the same place, hospitality, restaurants, alcohol, was, hey, we need to come up with a different way of doing things. Otherwise, we're going down the drain. So many restaurants shifted to a different kind of service. Come pick it up, we'll give you a free bottle of wine. Sheds outside in New York City, right? All of that was, I'm not resting on my laurels. I'm going to adapt and move. And much like biology, adapt or die.
Yep.
Right? And so that's absolutely right. And if your family's, again, hypothetically speaking, if you can't come up with something to offer someone who's gluten-free in a bagel shop, then you're not going to get all the people who come in with gluten. And every time we've had people here who want to come over for a meal, well, there's two of them are allergic to this and one of them is allergic, and you gotta, all right, I'll go to the 3 different stores to get them. But those 3 stores, I know where they are and I know why we're getting them from here. That's pure adaptation. That's pure advantage.
Yeah. I mean, I think we found out somewhere along our 10-year journey together that you were a customer at one of my family's stores at some point. And I was like, no way. You might have seen me when I was 17 with the messy bun, looking like a single mom waking up and going to work.
What do you want? What do you want? Come on, let's go. Let's go.
Hey, listen, so in the family business dynamic, in true fashion, you're either the eternal slacker, or you are like, I got to do everything perfectly. There's so much pressure because everybody's looking at me. And if I get away with it, they're going to want to get away with it. So ergo, the consultress was born out of a need to not be slacker, but also have, high standards for myself. Working in a food business actually gave me a lot of character, because no matter what kind of day I was having, I had to address people and meet them where they were. What kind of day they were having, whether they just got done with the best workout of their life, or they were coming in to have comfort food because they just experienced a breakup, or, they had 0 time and, we're going to throw money and run. I learned that no matter what business you're in, meeting people where they are and building a relationship, whether you're going to see them more than once. Relationships are not disposable like we see in this instant gratification society. We're starting to come back as a society to a place where relationships and community are the core of everything. So
right.
When you see clients from a transitional point of view, or when you see people from a long range communication and relationship point of view, the stakes get a little bit higher, but also truth matters ever more. And
forgive me, I also think, sort of the same way business school graduates have to go out, they look for people for business school who've actually worked for a living, not, you got to go in for a few years and you got to do something so that what work is about, because, anybody and really smart people can analyze balance sheets. But it takes a different kind of intelligence to be able to walk into a room, whether it's a boardroom or a bagel store, and read the person in front of you. And so if the person in front of you looks agitated, oh, they've been waiting a long time. Let me make sure that they see that I'm giving them the service and the attention they deserve. If the person in front of you is on the phone and doesn't want to talk to you, the last thing that they want is another conversation with you about, how many sugars do you want? I'll just put the sugars in the bag. They'll figure it out, right? You sort of learn that stuff, and you can only learn that stuff by having served 3 coffees that nobody likes and learning from it.
Yeah.
Which is why we mentor junior associates, which is why we think about, look, this is the first house you're buying. You've never dealt with ice in the middle of Cleveland before. Are you sure this is what you want to do for your business the next 5 years? Because it could take a while for the return on investment. Oh, you wanna mortgage out your business to invest in a different place. Are you sure that you can meet debt service? Or do you understand what you're getting yourself into? I'm not sure the demographics are there for you to sell this many bottles of absolute, whatever the thing is. That, that's all absolutely what we need to do and what we need to think about. And successful business people are all about envisioning the future with this tremendous optimism and positivity, and we're going to get it done, which is fine. But every now and then, you need a gadfly to say, whoa, are you sure really? Is that really what you want to do? Do you understand? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But we have a similar internal metric. I just want to point this out that like you're the external like Jiminy Cricket a little bit when someone's like filled with gusto and vision and yay, we're going forward, and you're like, hey, conscience over here, let's just have a little bit of a
Really?
conversation.
Jiminy Cricket, not the devil, but that's fine. Continue.
No, I know you better than that. Sorry, I know the brand. Forget it, devil. So also, but now you like made me lose my oh, right, yeah. So we have an internal metric for that as we go for success, as we have big grand visions, as we envision our life evolved and innovated from where we are today to where we can see we can go. Every time we make that decision and start to go in that direction, our fear shows up and goes, excuse me, you've never done this before. I can label you XYZ elemental P times when you did something similar and failed. Are you sure? And so internally, these are some of our limitations that test our commitment to these goals that we've stated. Sometimes we have to look at them for what they really are, which are logistical questions about, there are some things you need to think through. And sometimes it's really just fear talking to you saying, are you really committed, or aren't you sure you'd like to shrink back into this comfort zone over here where you're not as successful as you think you are?
So it's so funny you brought up the F word. It's also, by the way, also a 4-letter word, fear. I don't know if I read too many comic books with Batman and Daredevil. I don't know if it's,
Yes, definitely that.
I do not believe in acting out of fear, period. And which is very different than I don't get frightened. I fear things all the time. But I've never, can I say I've never? With the exception of going overboard with the kids and taking them to a doctor perhaps when I shouldn't have, which I'm happy.
Let's go.
Yeah, no, look, I'm that guy, and that's fine. With that one exception, and thank God they're much older and they have their own therapist where they can talk about me. Other than those issues, I don't believe in making fearful decisions. I'm scared, I'm frightened, I have anxiety. Great, put all that on the shelf, and now let's look at the numbers. Especially when it comes to settling a litigation, declaring bankruptcy, getting rid of a partner, confronting an employee that's stealing from you, all of these things, making decisions out of fear will never serve you.
Never.
And you will turn around down the road and kick yourself and say, I shouldn't have done this, but I was afraid at the time that.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that what I'm saying is a lot easier than living it, but do not make decisions out of fear. And if you can't not make decisions out of fear, then call one of us and we'll help you. No, I'm serious. Call one of us and listen, I know you don't want to fire Uncle Mo, but Uncle Mo is costing you $1 million a year. Here are the facts. Well, I don't want to fire him. Okay, I'll take care of that for you. I got this. Yeah. Don't let the 4-letter word frighten you.
Yeah, and then it's something we all experience. Like we have this myth now with social media that everybody we see out there that their life is rainbows and unicorns, but they're all feeling the fear and taking action anyway. They are maybe feeling the fear and going to need to learn a few things because they're deciding in that fear. But one of the things that I learned was to sit with that feeling rather so than try to stuff it or avoid it, to sit with that feeling and kind of invite it to a conversation. What is it that you're trying to tell me right now? Because it isn't that this is reality. I have to tell you, I had my first ever panic attack recently, and it
Oh,
was ridiculous. It
like
was
the
so
whole
hard,
breathing thing, the whole,
the whole nine. I
wow.
got through it, thank God for my husband. But the thought that triggered that was not true, that was born out of this fear, was that the house of cards over the trajectory of my life would all come crumbling down, and the fear at the root of it was that, you know, I didn't do my homework. Like I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And now I know that this situation that spun up out of nowhere that got me hyperventilating, not knowing if I needed to throw up or other, I was like, hold on, this is not how I operate. This is not my life. It's telling me something. I have to just hold on and wait till the tsunami recedes to see what wisdom I can glean from it. Because if in that moment I were to believe that, I would have made some phone calls or some rash decisions that would not have served me. In talking to my rational partner, I was able to say, oh, this was the emotional insight that I needed to know what it is that I'm grateful for today, because this is not the case. And it's telling me something that, you know, maybe there is a way for me to open my eyes even further when it's uncomfortable. And this is something you tell me all the time, you know, open your eyes even when it's uncomfortable, look at the facts, and be willing to sit with the discomfort. Because, and my massage therapist says this all the time too, we're not used to being uncomfortable. We're either on the go, in motion, or we're dead. That is not going to serve us as we move forward here, ladies and gents. Like that being in the middle with the discomfort or with the anxiety, that it has a message for you if you're willing to stay still
Oh,
enough, long enough to hear it.
look, I'm certainly not the wise Jiminy Cricket. But I do help people when they're in a bad situation. And it seems to me that there's different levels of it hit the fan, now what do I do? So the first level, the most basic level down here is, oh my God, why am I here? How did I get myself into this mess? So if you answer that question, maybe it'll help you avoid it in the future, which is the next level, which is, you know, well, I'm certainly not going to do that again. Yeah, but you're still in the mess. The really sophisticated business folks will say, ah, okay, how do I use this moment to my advantage? What's the best thing I can do here? How do I regroup? How do I get back on my feet? How do I, and you know the statistics just as well as I do, most businesses, most startups rather, if they had just stayed on with it just a little bit longer, right? Especially restaurants, because, you know, it takes them a while to get things worked out. So, you know, the first question I typically say is, okay, how do we use this to our advantage? Where are we going next? If you have core goals in your life of where you want to be, then the little stuff that goes wrong will take you to your, you can always go back to your north compass, or, you know, your overpowering core goals, or if you believe in the higher power, you know, those kinds of things. How do I prep to get myself to the best case scenario? And then ultimately, when it's all done, and, you know, what are the insights I can take away from this so that in the future, in a more sophisticated way, I've learned from the situation. And whether that's a relationship that didn't work out, whether that's a business thing that didn't work out, even if, you know, large companies, when they're starting, you know, when we're advising companies and they're starting out a new division, right? Like there's a reason why we put you in a different LLC. There's a reason why we put you, because I don't want the mistakes you make here to affect the mistakes that you might make there and the assets you have there. You know, the people that you hire in this business should stay with this business. And when someone comes to buy it, we learn from this, and you know, we tell them, you know, that so that we can move you forward to a different place. So you know, if you feel that you're out of your comfort zone, good. But you shouldn't be out of your comfort zone without a net. And I know I'm mixing metaphors. But you know, if you're gonna go on the trapeze for the first time, good, go. Well, but my stomach is all knots and I got butterflies and my knees are shaking as I'm climbing up to the trapeze. Good. That's out of your comfort zone. Good, do it. And then, you know, Alissa with her spreadsheets and Omid with his court cases, we're your net. We're your safety net. We got you.
High five.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so this reminds me of the first time I went on an adventure course. I was with my son, and it was he needed someone to go with him at the time.
Like a ropes course or a climbing thing?
Yeah, like where you put on the carabiners and you go from one tree platform to
Oh my
another
God.
with only nets and like glorified obstacle course in the sky.
Okay.
I went about halfway through the course until my physical limitations were met. But I stepped on that first platform and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? My brains were in my bottom of my gut. I could feel myself like melting. And I got to the next one because you know what? Mikey was up there. And I was like, I gotta get there because I have to make sure he's safe. And so I came through that physical feeling of like dread and fear because there was something more valuable to me than sitting with it or letting it stop me. I had to make sure he was okay. And I promised myself that I was going to be able to do this. So that was like close second, right behind him. And I did a couple of platforms and I stopped cursing out loud after the first three.
Fudge me. How did I get here?
Right. But that's the thing. Like, as you grow, like you said, for the sophisticated entrepreneurs and business owners, they use that feeling as like, okay, what do I learn from this feeling? Because it's telling me something. It's not telling me to stop. It's telling me to look around, get my team together, make sure there's the net, and then bravely take that risk, take that step, because no good ever came from staying in your safety zone and shrinking continuously. You're either growing or you're dying. And so, Omid, thank you so much for being here with me along the ride for this discussion. You know, I'm so grateful that we've been able to be that safety net for others together, and we've been able to create such momentum in each one of our businesses because, you know, we've got each other. You know, we can call and say, am I nuts? Yes, you're nuts. Okay, just checking.
But you're my kind of nuts. You're my
right.
kind of nuts. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, Alissa. Thank you for having me. Really, this is and you know, who does this anymore? Who has these conversations? Only you.
Oh no, we'll do this again someday. But if people want to find you and your business and connect with you, where can they do so?
It's WZMP Law, Weinberg, Zareh, Malcolm Price, .com, WZMPlaw.com. We're at Rockefeller Center. And really, thank you for having me.
Right on. So I'm coming to visit for New Year's, just saying. And we will see you next time, friends. So Omid will be back. Drop some comments. Let us know what you liked, what questions you have, so that we can go back to the lab and bring even more value to you as we continue to bring these innovative conversations in the age of disruption right to the forefront to your cell phone or tablet or computer screen. So see you next time. We broadcast every Monday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time, same bat time and same bat channel. Adios, everybody. Omid, thanks a million.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Bye.